Andrew Hallidie was a one-time gold prospector who became a supplier of wire rope to California's mines. In 1869, he conceived a method of urban transportation with continuously moving cable beneath the street, and cars with grips which could take or release the cable at will. He opened his Clay Street Hill Railroad in 1873, San Francisco's first cable car line. It was a success, and more lines were built throughout the city. By the 1890s, 8 companies were operating 20 lines. The Market Street Cable Railway was the city's largest system, with 5 lines totaling over 13 miles. On its Market Street main line, traffic was so heavy it ran cars every 15 seconds in rush hour. By the 1890s, electric traction had proved more practical than cable for new lines. Some of San Francisco's cable lines had already been electrified when the earthquake and fire of 1906 destroyed every line in the city except one. The only lines rebuilt as cable operations were those with hills too steep for trolley cars. By World War II, even some of these lines had been rendered obsolete by rubber-tired buses. In the mid-1950s, some tracks were abandoned and the route structure modified to its present form. The heart of today's system is the cable car barn and powerhouse at Washington and Mason Streets. After morning rush hour, work settles down to the many details of keeping a fleet of 90-year-old cars running.
Okay.
Cars leave for their runs throughout the day, and there is always a car on the ready track in case of breakdown. Although the basic principle of the cable car is simple enough, the practical implementation keeps the gripman pretty busy. When the conductor signals that it is safe to go with 2 rings on the small bell, the gripman releases the track brakes by moving the lever on his right forward. Then he grips the cable by pulling back on the lever in the center, which moves the jaws of the grip in from each side. As the grip gradually tightens on the cable, the car begins to move forward until it is moving at the same speed as the cable, 9 miles an hour, and the grip is no longer slipping. The conductor signals with 1 ring of the bell if a passenger wants to get off at the next stop. The gripman releases the cable by moving the center lever forward, applies the track brake with his right-hand lever, and brake shoes are pressed against the wheels by standing on a foot pedal behind the grip. On steep downhill sections of the line, the conductor also applies brakes on the rear wheels with a large crank on the rear platform. The cable runs about 18 inches below the street surface, supported by pulleys every 30 to 40 feet. The grip must clear these pulleys, So at the beginning of the run, and at certain points along the line, the cable must be lifted up into the grip. One way to do this is with a long hook that the gripman fishes down through the slot. At some terminals, there is a lever in the pavement that the conductor pulls to raise the cable. At several points along the line, the track dips to lower the car, rather than raising the cable. At the ends of each line, the car must somehow be prepared to go back the other way. The simplest system, as far as the track is concerned, is a switchback, but that results in the most complicated cars, since there must be a duplicate grip and set of brake controls at each end of the car. This is the system used on the California Street line. On the Powell Street lines, the simpler single-ended cars are reversed on turntables. Throughout most of the day, a car leaves the Powell and Market turntable every 3 minutes. We'll take a ride from Powell and Market up to the crest of Nob Hill. Prior to the great earthquake of 1906, we would have crossed another cable car at every intersection but two on the way to the top.
Not there, please, inside. Step all the way inside.
The cable of the Powell Street line crosses under the California cable at the crest of Nob Hill. The Powell cars must drop the rope and coast at the crossing so as not to cut the California cable. There is a signal house to make sure that the cars of the two lines don't attempt the crossing at the same time. When the way is clear, the signalman presses the button which allows the Powell cars to cross. Powell Street cars coast from California down to Jackson Street, running 2 blocks west of the heart of Chinatown.
And don't lean out.
The first curve on the line, from Powell to Jackson Street, is known as a pull curve. The gripman takes the cable and allows it to pull the car around the curve. Although it is possible for the gripman to release the cable in an emergency, it is so rough on both the grip and the cable that he makes every effort to run non-stop around the corner. A pull curve is a major engineering work on a cable car line, with over 30 pulleys to guide the cable around the corner. These pulleys are just one of many reasons why a cable car system is so difficult and expensive to maintain. The oil serves as a lubricant, and the grease seals out the dirt and water. If a disabled car cannot be repaired on the line, it must be towed back to the barn by truck. When the bearings of a pulley wear out, the entire pulley assembly is replaced. This can be done with the cable running, but note how the workers avoid putting their hands below street level. Powell and Hyde cars traveled a section that was once part of a line extending all the way to Golden Gate Park. When the line was destroyed in 1906, the outer end was not rebuilt. Part of the remainder was closed in 1956.
Hold on tight, please.
From Jackson on to Hyde, the cars round a let-go curve, which is much simpler to build and maintain than a pull curve. The gripman, however, must drop the rope and coast around the corner. Instead of following the line of the tracks, the rope goes around a single large pulley, and the gripman picks it up again after the car is on the straightaway. The Hyde Street line was originally part of the California Street Cable Railroad, which remained a private company until bought by the city in 1951. The line was closed in 1954. In 1956, the city closed the Washington-Jackson line, linked the inner part of it with the outer part of the Hyde Street line, and reopened it in 1957 as the Powell and Hyde line. This section of Hyde Street is the steepest in the entire system, with a grade of over 20%.
The end of the line, folks. Everybody up.
As part of the Cal cable system, the Hyde Street line originally ended in a switchback for double-ended cars. The turntable at Hyde and Beach was built in 1957 when the line was joined to the Powell Street line so that single-ended cars could be used. This newest combination route is the longest in the system. A one-way trip takes 18 to 21 minutes, depending on traffic.
my job. I will never be a gambling man. And I will God. I'll be sitting on that mountain song for you. Oh, please,
There has been a turntable at Bay and Taylor since the original Powell and Mason line opened in 1888. The cars operate on a 6-minute headway for most of the day and take about 16 minutes to reach Market Street.
hold on, left turn. a round trip deal, or do we buy another ticket to go back?
Every ticket's good for 2 hours. You're wondering what's going on here? They're changing a grip.
Changing what?
A grip. What it does is it grabs the cable. What you see sitting there is the grip.
The powerhouse for the entire system is located at Mason and Washington, underneath the car barn. The lines are run from 3 cables, Powell and Mason, Hyde and California. All 3 are driven by a single 720 horsepower electric motor. There is a second motor for emergency use. Each cable takes several turns around a pair of driving sheaves, then runs to the tension sheaves, which can move away from the drivers to take up slack in the cable. A rope may stretch up to 100 feet over its lifespan of 1 to 200 days. Underground, the cables go over a series of deflection sheaves and through tunnels to reach the tracks. As the rope comes back into the powerhouse, it passes the strand alarm, an inverted Y-shaped device. If a broken strand projects out from the cable, it hits the fork and a loud alarm sounds in the powerhouse. Every couple of hours, the cable is also inspected visually to detect any signs of potential damage. No matter how the damage is first detected, the solution is the same: shut down the cable and deal with it at once. The danger is not that the cable will break and send all the cars crashing to the bottom of the hill. That's why the cars have 3 different braking systems. The real problem comes if a loose strand on the cable tangles with the grip so that the car can't let go, and it moves along inexorably at 9 miles per hour, crashing into everything in its path. The potential for catastrophe is so high that even minor damage to the cable is taken very seriously. Here one of the cables is being spliced while the others continue running to keep part of the system in operation. Because the splice must be exactly the same 1 1/4 inch diameter as the cable itself to avoid jamming in the grip, it is about 55 feet long, and it takes several hours to complete. This California car is on foreign tracks, making its way over to Jackson and Hyde Streets to begin its day's work. When the Cal cable system was joined with the city's Powell Street lines, the California Street powerhouse was shut down, and California Street cars began operating out of the Mason and Washington barn. At several points in the system where routes divide at a pull curve, there are stretches of unusual 3-rail, 2-slot track. A switch ahead of the junction sends the cars left or right, so each can take its own cable before the curve, but they share the center rail until the tracks actually divide. There is no passenger service over this 3-block stretch of Hyde from Washington to California. It is used only to bring cars in and out of the barn. The corner far right of California and Hyde, now occupied by a parking lot, once housed the Cal Cable Barn and Powerhouse. The California Street line from Van Ness to Market and Drum is the oldest line in the present system, first opened in 1878. It is also the most lightly traveled. Midday headway is 7 minutes, and a one-way trip has a scheduled time of 15 minutes.
Hey, man. Alright, next stop, be Kearney, Bank of America Building, and there's a
the end of a shift, cars coast backwards on Jackson Street into the barn. A turntable is used both to reverse the cars and to direct them into storage tracks, like the turntable in a steam locomotive roundhouse. The soft pine blocks of the track brakes have to be replaced every 2 to 4 days, depending upon weather. The parts of the grip which actually contact the cable, called the dies, last about a week. The entire grip is taken out of the car, a replacement grip installed, and then the worn grip is taken to the shops to have the dies replaced.